Hey, this is Joe, graybenchelec. Welcome back to the Pedal Teardown series, where I take apart new and interesting pedals and show you what's going on inside. Today we have the Earthquaker Life Pedal version 3. All right, we got the Earthquaker Life Pedal version 3. So we have on this channel already looked at the Life Pedal version 2. That was in the 1590 VVS enclosure. We have now graduated up to the 1590XX enclosure. For that exercise, we have gained a octave switch, so we can bring the octave effect in and out of the circuit. I think this is a great idea from Earthquaker. Interesting that the pedal PCB version of this pedal, the parentheses, integrated this into their DIY project in the 1590XX enclosure. And now Earthquaker has done it on the version 3 of the Life Pedal. So the reason I think that's a great idea from Earthquaker, and why it was a good idea when Pedal PCB did it earlier, is that it allows the Life Pedal here to be, of course, in the pedal it is, the Life Pedal with the octave and the boost pedal on it, but it can also be your Rat now. It can be your Proco Rat on your board, so you don't have to have a separate pedal. So it can do each of the three things independently. It can be just the boost, it can be just the Rat, and I don't know if you can do just the octave pedal, but you can use now the Rat without the octave effect, which is good. It can just be your Rat now. So that was a good idea. As far as the controls, it's still the same from the previous Life pedals. Magnitude controls the output of the boost. The octave controls the octave effect. The clip control has the same three options from the Life Pedal version 2, which is op-amp clipping or no clipping diodes, hard clipping diodes. Asymmetric clipping, which is a silicon diode and an LED on one polarity, and then just a single silicon diode on the opposite polarity. And then symmetric is just the two back-to-back silicon diodes like the original Rat. Distortion is distortion for the Rat, filter is the filter on the Rat, and amplitude is volume. The enclosure is a powder-coated matte, so it's got that textured finish to it. Silkscreen graphics from the band The Sun that it's a collaboration, the pedal is a collaboration with. On the bottom is the Sun Rat logo, Earthquaker Life Pedal, blah, blah, blah. Top mounted jacks, input and outputs, expression jack to let you control the octave effect, 9-volt DC input, center negative, of course. On the back, Earthquaker sticker, handmade in Akron, blah, 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 all the standard, legal, mumbo jumbo. And of course we have chrome bezel, red LEDs. Foot switches are non-latching foot switches. We've seen in other Earthquaker pedals that they use relay switching, so that is to be expected. Let's go ahead and crack open the pedal. All right, so here's the inside of the Earthquaker Life Pedal version 3. So just like the version 2, this board is sort of built into the enclosure. We have these top-mounted jacks that poke through the enclosure this way, and then potentiometers poke through here. Makes it unnecessarily difficult to get the PCB out. So we're going to be leaving it in the enclosure. As far as I know, there's nothing on the other side of the board anyway, so we can see everything up here. To that effect, let's see what we see, which is, first off, obviously these three orange relays. These are the switching relays for the three effects. They are marked on the board here. So this first one is the octave relay. This one is the amplitude relay, so that's turning on the Rat. And then the third one here is the magnitude relay turning on the MOSFET boost. Down here we have the microcontroller that is controlling those three relays. So this is a PIC, what is it? Yeah, it's a PIC 18F2 microcontroller, and that's going to be controlling the relays, interpreting the foot switch actions to turn the different effects on and off. We also have down here a 14-pin surface mount package. This is a digital potentiometer that's going to be associated with the expression control. So that controls the amount of octave effect, and the IC is interpreting the resistance from that expression pedal to put that into the octave effect and control the amount of octave. We also have a 8-pin package here. This is the LM308 that's part of the Rat circuit, op-amp. Interestingly, we also have some plated through holes that are now filled in for through-hole components for the digital potentiometer and for the LM308. And that's just a sign of the supply chain issues we've been having with semiconductors for the past couple of years with COVID. In this case, both the surface mount packages were available, so the through holes are all filled in. That's just because the wave soldering, it fills in all plated through holes that aren't filled up. So by this point, it's not a problem because they already knew they had the surface mount components. Earthquaker didn't want to be burdened if they couldn't get a hand on the surface mount 308s or the digital potentiometer. The part number, by the way, is MCP 4251. If they couldn't get their hands on those surface mount chips, they wanted to be able to have backups of through-hole to continue production of the pedal. So good idea, sort of contingency plan from Earthquaker there. As you can see, most of the components are through-hole, of course. Input jacks or not, DC jack, relays. We have over here, this is the green ringer circuit. So you can tell by these back-to-back, I shouldn't say back-to-back, these are two parallel polarity diodes. So the green ringer is one of the early octave effects from Dan Armstrong, morphed into other pedals like I think the Earthquaker quotes the Shinai fuzzes. This version, the way that these octave works, put simply, it's sort of like a full wave rectifier for a power supply. You have a transistor amplifier that has the output on both the collector and the emitter. Those are going to be out of phase with each other. You hook a diode up to each one, both going same direction. The one side will cut off one part of the waveform. The other diode will cut off the opposing part of the waveform. You take those and you put them back together, and now you've effectively doubled the frequency of that signal. There's a bunch of downsides to it. There's a ton of distortion. It's not clean. It doesn't work well with chords. It also prefers to see certain frequencies coming in, but it does have an octave effect, and it's sort of got its own thing, its own charm. And I will say, as much as I am not like crazy about the bandwagony stuff that happens with the Life Pedal and just the general like stoner metal stuff, I will say there is something cool that happens with the Rat and an octave pedal coming together. It's a cool sound, so I get it. The interesting thing to note here is that Earthquaker has gone with two silicon rectifier, calling them rectifier diodes is sort of what it's doing. Two silicon rectifier diodes as opposed to the germanium diodes that we've seen on the previous versions of Earthquaker pedals. What that signals to me is that they are going to be making a lot more of these pedals. These, I've looked up the surface mount code on them. They're just standard 1N4148 switching diodes. They're going to be way cheaper, way easier to install. It is going to affect the performance of the octave. I wouldn't be surprised if the octave effect on this pedal sounds different than previous versions of the Life Pedal because they have gone with silicon diodes. It should still work. Obviously between germanium and silicon diodes, you're going to have a different voltage drop, but the way the green ringer works is that the diodes are DC biased with a voltage divider off the power supply anyway, so the diodes are already conducting. It shouldn't prevent the effect from working, at least surely it doesn't, since it's sitting here in a production model. But I would expect it to behave differently being silicon diodes. For better or worse, I don't know, but interesting to note that that is a change that they made and no longer using those. I believe they were Soviet D9K germaniums. They're now using standard surface mount silicon diodes. Up here, this is a little voltage regulator, 5-volt voltage regulator for presumably the microcontroller. Over here we have, these are the diode clipping options. So we have two diodes over here. These are the symmetric diodes for the symmetric setting. And we also have the two silicon and the one LED for the asymmetric setting. And then in the op amp setting, there's no diodes connected. So that would just be the op amp itself clipping at high distortion levels. Little reverse polarity protection diode up there. Filter capacitors, output cap for the Rat probably. And then over here, output cap for the MOSFET. This is your little MOSFET, surface mount MOSFET over there, and some small components. All the foot switches, these are all Sun Tzu brand foot switches, and they're on their own little assemblies, wires and headers. There you can see the LEDs coming up connected to the board. We also got the spring grounding tab, and they've gone ahead and protected the enclosure from the powder coating process with a piece of tape, it looks like. And then when the powder coating's done, they just peel the tape off, and now the ground spring has a good bare metal connection for the enclosure. Quarter-inch jacks look like the Amphenol style quarter-inch or Neutrik. All right, so that's the inside of the Earthquaker Life Pedal version 3. Let's go ahead and put the pedal back together. All right, that is it for the teardown on the Earthquaker Life Pedal version 3. If you have any questions or recommendations for a pedal you want to see on a future teardown episode, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button and subscribing, and hit the notification bell if you want to know when I make a new video. I'm Joe from Graybench Electronics. Thank you for watching.